Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a podcast from Birthday Cake for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes, and for episode 57, it's a real treat to feature an interview with Australian singer-songwriter Jack Ladder. We first encountered Jack Ladder supporting Alex Cameron back in 2018, described by Cameron on the night as a good-looking guy, not to be trusted. Ladder was sporting a big pair of sunglasses and was crooning his way through a cover of Iggy Pop's 80s gem Shades when we arrived, and we were hooked from the off. In October 2025, Ladder released his latest album, Separation Rock, a record he said to have been waiting his whole life to make. We spoke with Jack over Zoom in October 2025, a few weeks after the release of Separation Rock, to talk about the record itself, as well as collaborating with the likes of Alex Cameron and Sharon Van Etten, and the big bad world of online streaming. There's also the small matter of starring in a film with Nicolas Cage. If you like the episode, let us know. Follow us on your favourite streaming platform and follow Birthday Cake for Breakfast on all the socials. Right, on to Jack Ladder. Enjoy. With these sorts of things, we normally start with, asking where people are and what you're up to, how do we find you? Over here, mainlining coffee because it's 11 in the morning. Over there, I can see you've got what looks like a nice glass of red. How do we find you, and what's the crack at the minute?
What's happening? Yeah, I mean, I'm having a glass of wine. I had some dinner. I've been working on a musical, actually. Someone's asked me to write a musical, and I hate musicals, so it's an interesting position.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and it's weird because they've written the words, so I'm sort of trying to fit these words to music, which is kind of half the problem. Like when you write a song, and it's a very different proposition for me to make a song with someone else's words.
You've got behind you, this isn't a visual podcast, but you've got behind you what looks like the entirety of the musical making process with like all this equipment behind you. So is it a one man thing doing this musical with the lyrics that have already been written, or
It's in development, you know. It's a top secret thing. I shouldn't be really talking about it. I was just working on a song right then while I was waiting for you. This is just my room, which has kind of become a storage room. The sort of my office. I was doing some recording last week and I had to take everything to a different space. So I just threw it all back in here and I haven't really sorted it out yet, which is why you can sort of see this shit everywhere.
the first time we saw you, we went to Liverpool to see Alex Cameron. Yeah, and you were supporting, and the image is still fresh for me and my partner. It was
When
you
was
wearing
that?
these, I think it was 2017, 2018,
That sounds about right. 2018.
and you were wearing these giant cataract type glasses.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was doing the Iggy Pop song, Shades.
Shades, yeah. And that for us, me and my partner, because we love Al Cam anyway, but
Mm.
it was a discovery of you and also a
Mm.
discovery of Shades. And it was such a
Yeah.
great combo.
Mm. Yeah, that was a fun time doing that tour. I missed that. I missed that tour. Yeah, Shades was like always a song that I loved, and I felt like I needed to do, add a cover to the set for some reason. I never really liked doing covers because I'm not great at singing other people's songs. I'm really bad at sort of doing other people's melodies. I often just approximate the melody, and I think I really did that for Shades as well. Some people are very good at copying a melody, but yeah, it always comes out a bit wrong. But having that moment in the set to be able to put those sunglasses on and go to a different place and do that, that was always a nice thing to do. And amazingly, it's funny how people tailor their sets now. You can see the way social media is interacted with live performance, and people have these sort of like moments that everyone takes their phones out and takes a picture of, these moments. And it's weird because it might not even be very interesting, but it's like a change in what's happening on stage, and it's like a group think thing. Just like for some reason, if they see it online, people go to the show and they're like almost like going to a tourist attraction, like we're at the Louvre. we're going to take a photo of the Mona Lisa. Like, this is the moment that we take the photo. And that, I guess, when I put these old ladies like sunglasses on, people were like, oh, that's the moment when we're supposed to document the show. And then that proliferates. And then people come to the show and they're like, oh, he's going to put the glasses on. And you're like, this is not a particularly interesting thing. But for some reason, this is the world we live in, where they're more interested in these like signifiers. And you wonder whether people go to the shows like just to get a glimpse of that moment as opposed to listening to the music.
I love the idea of you becoming a TikTok sensation because everyone's like, there's this Jack Ladder guy and he wears these big glasses and he
Yeah.
sings this Iggy Pop cover.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of I guess that's how it works. You know, if you know how to if you don't it's all easy if you don't feel bad about that stuff. You know, if you're more than happy to like that Bart Simpson kind of like say the line thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
eat my shorts, you know, like
The I didn't do it boy, yeah.
yeah, then it can work really well for you. I feel like I'm hypersensitive to that stuff. I don't even that tour was a real experiment for me because I'd never played the same set over and over again. I always thought that I could sort of like improvise on stage and play whatever song I wanted. The crowd would go along with it. And then when I toured with Alex, I realized that he was really working on the show, and it was a completely different approach to performing. His songs are so like well built and the ideas are so strong that it becomes it's less about music and it is about the communication of all the compounding elements of all the songs together and the way that he threads them. Almost like a stand-up comedy routine more than a music show in a lot of ways. And so I sort of got inspired and I was like, maybe I'll just do the same songs every night and see what happens. And then suddenly you don't have to think about the music anymore and you're thinking about the way you thread the songs together and you're building this greater show as opposed to my older way of getting up and having sort of a nervous breakdown on stage and trying to dig my way out of it um, with songs.
Do you think that's carried on into the way you've toured ever since? Obviously, you've got your band that you know is made up of Al Cam and Donny Benet, etc. But do you think that that's kind of influenced the way you took things forward in a live setting?
I never really got another opportunity to play so consistently like that, I think, because after we did that tour in Europe, I mean, I did it until the end of 2019, I think. And then the COVID thing happened, and the next time I toured, I was doing like recital halls with strings, and we were doing this very different kind of show. And then after that, I did tour. Actually, yeah, we did it. We did like an electronic show, and I toured Europe a couple of times just with a backing track, and it was sort of like acoustic guitars and techno. And that, yeah, I mean, that was that kind of thing. But I don't want to do that anymore. What I'm doing now is just playing proper music again. That's my I've gone full circle. Now it's yeah. I'm just playing the songs as simply and without any adornment as I can and trying to do this really hyper focused sort of still performance where the emphasis is really on the music and the show the show time is very much secondary. But I haven't even really had a chance to do it yet. I've only got shows coming up this next month.
Speaking of that sort of full circle, Alex Cameron is doing that thing that you were just talking about, where he's just going out there with a mic and, you know, like a minimal setup.
Oh
He
yeah.
does, and he's doing this Short King thing, which is a
Have,
revelation.
have you seen this show? His new show?
No, he's just in Australia and America, isn't he? But yeah, devoured Short King because it is hilarious and brilliant.
Are you a tall guy?
About 5'11".
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think only tall guys like the song,
Do
is
you
my
think?
impression.
No, I think short guys like it because it's sort of like a tribute to them,
True.
right?
And it's chaos for people like yourself and Alex. I do
Yeah.
think that photo of you and him where he's wearing an ill-fitting blue suit that was recently put up is so bizarre. You know, when you were doing those international shows,
Oh, we were doing the Invitational in
invitational,
Sydney.
sorry.
Yeah, we did that one show in Sydney. Us in the suits walking down the street with our colored socks.
Yeah, so you look fine, but Alex's suit looks for some reason like it's about six sizes too big. And it it looks like he's been caught by a strong wind, and the legs of the suit are so funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a fun day. Yeah.
So
Uh,
he's appears all over the new record, Separation Rock.
mm.
You and he have had quite the musical partnership over the years. How has that developed, and how is it now? With the back and forth and the bounce in between, backing him up and him backing you up and appearing on the record and stuff.
Yeah, we sort of became friends in a strange way. Well, we weren't, it wasn't immediate, I think. We had a mutual friend and he'd tried to introduce me to Alex's music and I wasn't really having it, I think, when he put out his first record. And this guy was like, "Oh, you gotta really check this record out." And I was like, "Yeah, it's okay." I was pretty, had my head up my ass. And it wasn't until there was a Crispin Glover screening, you know, Crispin Glover.
Of
Um,
course, yeah. Which
he,
very
he-
your wheelhouse, yeah.
yeah, he was showing one of his movies and doing a Q&A talk in Sydney. And just so happened that Alex was the only other person there that I knew. Well, I think we sort of were like, I think maybe he gets it. Somehow we sort of started hanging out. I think we both didn't mind having a drink together. We often would stay out quite late doing that. He was going through a tough time getting the songs together for Force Witness, and he came up to my house and hung out for a bit, and I helped him record a bunch of demos for that record. And then, I guess we started working together in the studio, and we've done a few records together and toured a lot together, and we just like hanging out. We like having a laugh. My new record, I was supposed to do it with a different setup, and it all fell apart. And I showed Alex the demos that I've made, and he liked them, and he showed them to this guy Zach that he's friends with in LA, and he was like, "I reckon Zach can get this cooking for you." And so Alex kind of became the sort of middleman between negotiating this sort of situation with Zach, who produced the record. And then Alex was going to do his new record with Zach, and he wanted to see how he worked in the studio. So I was kind of like the guinea pig, I guess. And so Alex was in the studio and watching how we were working and buying everyone lunch and just being a good vibe in the studio. He's always got good ideas and interesting way of looking at things, and he's a good person to have around. And then I went away on tour, and he sort of helped finish the record with Zach and did all the backing vocals when I wasn't around. So it was the record was sort of felt like it was being done posthumously. Like I went to LA for like a week and we did the record, and then I left, and it just kind of all the stitching, all the final sort of detailing stuff was done in my absence, and I didn't have a lot of control over it, which was the first time that's ever happened. I didn't even look at a computer the whole time. It was sort of taken out of my hands, and I just had to go with it, which was nice.
That must be unique when it's your name on the banner, How was it kind of relinquishing that sort of control?
Yeah, it was a bit scary to begin with. I got to work with really good people, like Zach, who produced the record. He's worked with T-Bone Burnett for a long time, who does all like Coen Brothers soundtracks, and they do a lot of TV show things. And Zach plays with old mate from Arctic Monkeys, the last Shadow puppet. So he's a great musician, and I sort of deferred to the guys that were recording. Well, they were very respectful. They liked the songs, so that was the first hurdle. And then yeah, we got Chad Blake to mix the record, and Chad Blake's mixed some of my favorite records, all these like Richard Thompson records in the 90s. Everyone just did their thing, and when you work with good people and you just trust people to do their job, then you can stop worrying about all the tiny shit, where I in the past would be spending days just like comping drums that don't need to really be comps, just making sure everything's like perfect and editing. I don't want to edit audio ever again. I just want to write the songs and show up and play them in the studio and be done with it. I don't know if I could spend just like 6 months working on a record again.
It's interesting to hear because I read that the bulk of the record was done live in the room, minimal takes, leaving all the good bits in, as you said.
But yeah,
And it seems like that is the preferable way to work for you so you can keep it focused.
it was not preferable for a while. The last time I recorded a live record in the studio was probably like 15 years ago. And I was sort of disappointed with the outcome of it because it can sound so plain, or it can, if people aren't listening, if the band's not being sensitive, it can sort of just sound like hard to listen to, It's just like you go to a bar and you see a band playing. It's quite an ugly sound sometimes. You don't want to put it on. But if the musicians, I guess this is more like a feeling of the way like jazz records were made or something, where everyone's playing at a low volume and playing with like a lot of space. No one's trying to fill everything up, and allowing that's the hardest thing to get like a drummer to play and allow the reverbs and the to do their work to fill the space, as opposed to like filling it all up with playing. And that's just a really hard thing to do. And the songs were written like with that sense of space in mind. So it's really about intent. You have to be very intentional about how you're going to record if you're going to record with a band because it can go badly so quickly. And yeah, it became like a bit of a crutch where I'd take a demo into the studio and be like, this is what the song is, and then just slowly like replacing bits, like, oh, maybe the drummer just do this little thing, and you end up just sort of replacing performances, and it's never particularly exciting, and nothing really ever gels that well, and you kind of have to fake it in the mix, and it's all trickery, and it's not that exciting. It's much more exciting to record all together in the room with intent, and then you have this document with this physical sort of form. I think my favorite records are probably those kind of ones. And that's the way to do it. I think that's the way to do it. And then all the mistakes that you leave in just get better as you don't touch it, because the instant thing is like, oh, you can hear me like scratching my face or something while I'm doing the vocals. And the instant reaction is to like get in there and cut those bits out. But then if you don't cut those things out, if you leave all the bad, wrong bits in, then they just become the best bits the more you listen to it. I mean,
It's more
that's,
real.
I guess it's more real. I like the idea of being like a little like a bug in the studio and you're sort of like flying around, like landing on the different instruments rather than having this sort of like glossy, sort of hyper realistic where everything's just overly compressed and got this sheen across it that you can't really access and like to be inside the music. Like that Violent Femmes record, it sounds amazing like that because it's so real sounding. You know that, I mean, it's the best, that's the only really good Violent Femmes record.
I
Um,
don't think I know the Violent Femmes. I know the name, but I don't think I know much.
okay.
Yeah.
Like Blister in the Sun?
Oh, okay, sure.
And it's got like an acoustic bass and just often just like a snare drum with brushes and like acoustic guitar, but it feels like you're really inside the room, just like buzzing around, like landing on different instruments and just being really close to it. And I like that feeling more than ever now.
I love that analogy. It seems very. Did you ever see the film Acid House
Oh yeah, yeah.
with the little fly that flies around the Scottish tenement
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
people are having the party or what have you? Quick break in the interview just to give you a heads up about some of our previous episodes. From our first episode to our latest, we featured interviews with the likes of Proto Martyr, the Lovely Eggs, Anna Erhard, Chat Pile, the Future Heads, Public Service Broadcasting, Gang of Four, Joshua Idehen, the Jesus Lizard, and even snooker legend Steve Davis. Treat yourself and go back through the episodes. Be sure to tell all your friends and comrades too. Enjoy. So,
Yeah.
the record, it's pieced together at a historical studio, Valentine Studios, North
There you
Hollywood,
go.
and that fits with the lore of Jack Ladder. But then you also stopped in a dinky motel, which also
Yeah.
fits the lore, I'd say.
Yeah, I wanted to stay in a shitty hotel
Yeah.
because I've been to LA a bunch of times and stayed in like not necessarily the better parts of town, but with friends and when you're I just wanted to be feel like really alone. There was a couple of hotels I had my eye on, terrible hotels in Hollywood. And I got one and it was awful, really bad place. No proper hot water. I got really sick after the first day of recording. There wasn't a kettle in the room, so I'd have to go to the front desk to get like hot water. And yeah, it was an absolute shit show.
How was
But
the
it,
decor in the place?
oh, just cheap. I mean, everything in LA is kind of like, I shouldn't say everything in LA, but a lot of those old buildings, everything's sort of like the facade, everything's like a set. Like they're just made really badly. Cheap floors, walls you think you could just like fall through. Yeah, but it was important to do that to feel like I was really living it. Because I mean the record's pretty down and out. Yeah, I didn't want to stay with friends and enforce that on them. I'd also never really been recorded my own stuff overseas in LA. I'd recorded with Al in LA, and that we always had a crew, like, and it was a bit more of a group sort of experience, whereas this was very much just being a long way from home and showing up at the studio each day and putting in the hours and trying to just be very real about it. You know, I had to confront myself with these songs that are quite harrowing. They'd been finished for a while, so I had to get back in that headspace.
By stopping in a shit hotel and feeling that vibe and getting that.
Have you been to Hollywood before?
No, I've been to the States, but not Hollywood. I believe it's
It,
very, yeah, very fake.
I mean, can be incredibly beautiful, and there's a lot of great things to do there. But the downtown Hollywood situation is like one of the worst places in the world. It's just filthy and a lot of homeless people. Like Hollywood Boulevard's just filled with tents and drug addicts, and it's yeah, it's just quite a terrible place to be. And it's funny because it's, when you go there and it's like glossy sort of Hollywood thing, and what it's become is just the complete opposite of that. But I hadn't been there for 5 years, so it's got worse. I don't know how it's going to get any better.
Particularly with who's in charge.
Yeah, I think everyone's a bit shocked at how bad it is. A friend just came back from LA recently, and she was just saying it was just like the gates of hell. But then you can walk a block in another direction, and it's fantasy land. It just has everything, and I guess that's what's special about it. People, you can go there to work, and there's the best technicians, some of the best artists, best writers. Like it's really an amazing place for talent. Incredible musicians there. People that have played on fucking everything. And you're like, why would you live there? But that's just what happened. It's got a magic to it, and there's so much history there. And I mean, I don't know if I'll ever go back, but it was nice for the moment.
that sort of contradictions in appearance and a place and stuff. I love the video for you on the Sydney ferry for
Mm,
for the lead single from the new record because it's
mm.
very poignant and it's a great little snapshot. It really fits the song, but it has the humor of the fact that you're sat right next to the toilets and that door is just
Yeah,
flapping
yeah,
back and forth.
yeah,
Do you
yeah. I mean,
feel,
that was,
I was going to say, do you feel your stuff has that, I certainly do, that lingering sense of humor under the song
yeah,
itself and like that deep feeling?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think kind of you can't be communicate like a deep sadness or heavy emotion without giving it a sense of humor, or at least being like self-awareness. You know, when people are morose and heavy-handed with those kinds of emotions, it's unbearable. And it's not real. Like I mean, maybe it is for some people, but I just feel like, when you hit the bottom, you kind of have to do it with a smile on your face. And that makes it better for everyone else, That makes it mildly easier to digest, or at least to communicate those feelings to other people.
It's kind of
And
like a wink.
yeah, when you're at your worst, it's like if you can't have a laugh about it, then it's kind of the end, really. And being able to laugh at love, being able to laugh at all these very serious things, I think is really important. And I don't think what I do is very funny. What was funny when Alex and we went into a drum store when we were in LA recording. There was a guy that worked there that knew both of us, knew our music, and he started a conversation. And the thing he said was, he said, "I've laughed so much to your music." I think he meant more Alex, but we were both a bit like, "Huh? You think it's funny, do you? Like, you think our music's funny? It's not supposed to be that funny." And then he sent us his music, and his music was like really trying to be funny, and it wasn't funny at all. And I think that's the main problem, is that being self-aware and having strong ideas or strong themes is very different to being funny. The humor comes as a byproduct of trying to communicate something real. Whereas if you're trying to be funny, it often doesn't have a lot of reality to it. You're just kind of doing cliches. Yeah, like when I do this song Susan, which is about a euthanasia kind of situation, people think it's really funny. And it's not very funny at all. There's nothing in the song indicates that it's supposed to be funny. There aren't any jokes. It's quite serious, but for some reason, because it's serious, the byproduct of it is that people think that it's kind of funny. And I think that's interesting to me. So it's more about being interesting than funny.
Which branches off into it becoming funny in itself. It's like I don't tend to go on there much, but I was looking for short kink stuff on Reddit when Al Cam released that song, and someone said about his song about, I think it's a Force Witness about him liking someone who's underage,
Oh yeah.
and it said that it's just really funny that someone's done a song from the view of the predator. And I'd never thought about that before, because I've laughed at it and I've sung it as if it was, not funny. And I've never thought about that predator aspect. It's strange, isn't it?
Dud Muffin.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
We played that at the Invitational, and then because people came to this show that didn't really know Alex's music, and they thought they were going to see my show, and then they were like, some of Alex's songs are quite distressing, and I was like offended by it. And it's like it is pretty offensive. Like that's a deeply offensive song if you come at it with no context, with no idea of who Alex is or what he's trying to communicate. And yeah, there's nothing in that song to indicate that it's a joke, outside of the fact that if you thought that it's not a joke and that this is like a serious, earnest song, then there's something kind of wrong with you. I would suggest, like, and with Short King as well, there's nothing in that song to indicate that it's a joke because it's not a joke. It is like, I think there is a level of seriousness in it, but the sheer audacity of writing that song.
I think it's po-faced, isn't it? That's what's funny about it. He's singing about being really peeved because he's having to duck through doorways and
Well, the best line in the song is like, "What use is a cliff if there's no one to shove?" That's probably the funniest line in the song. But I don't know what Alex's motivation is necessarily around that, and I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's a funny song, but there is something about it that is other. It's got this other quality to it, and the people don't write songs. There aren't many people that write those sort of songs that throw up questions. So much songwriting is so black and white and talking about feelings and people like, how could you write a song about anything else? And it's a special mine that Alex is in. Some of the new songs he's doing, I don't know how he lands on them, but they're just from the most bizarre perspectives. And maybe that's the thing, being able to just create a little world that can spin your own head around and look at something from someone else's perspective is kind of has a healing effect. I think that the songs that Alex does, I don't do them. My songs are quite earnest. Sometimes there's a sort of character that from a different perspective, but a song that can reverse your way of looking at things is healing for both parties. Like I think Short King's interesting because it allows the little guys and the big guys to look at each other in a reverse sort of way. And it sort of offends everyone and no one at the same time. And that's a kind of a powerful situation.
it does feel like it's kind of turning into the Al Cam show, and I do apologize for that, although it's always fun to talk about, your busy mate. But you on the new record, you also drafted in royalty and getting Sharon Van Etten onto the lead single Missing. Massive collaboration. How was that getting involved with her and having her on the record?
Well, Sharon's someone I've known for a long time. She sang on a couple of my songs like 10 years ago. And Zach, the producer, is also friends with Sharon and worked with her on a couple of soundtrack things. So I think the instinct was to put like strings and pads on songs. And as soon as I tried to do that, it just ruined everything. It's like the ceiling height came down and everything got squashed. And so it felt like the only thing to do was to use like another voice. And we just asked Sharon if she would sing on it. And she said, of course, she would sing on it. And then she sang on it and it was perfect. She makes really great decisions. Someone that, like everyone that worked on the record, that I could trust to do things without like telling them what to do. She just has great instincts and she did a couple of things that sort of corrected my bad singing, which I thought was interesting. And like Miles Davis kind of would do these things where if someone would play a wrong note, he'd play another note that would sort of complement their bad note and make everything good. I feel like she did that a little bit. Yeah, she's just like really sweet, beautiful person and total motherfucker of a singer. Yeah, I wish that we could do more. We have to do a proper duet. Every time I work with her, it's a bit of an afterthought. But yeah, we should do like a proper old style duet, like that song she did with Angel.
Is there, let's say you were doing a karaoke with Sharon. I know you're not keen on the covers as you said at the start of the chat, but if you were doing a cover with Sharon, what sort of thing do you think you might cook up?
Hmm, that's interesting. Probably like a Conway Twitty sort of, and the what's her name? Loretta Lynn, those kind of songs, I think. I mean that's my favorite stuff really. Pretty schmaltzy kind of country. Well, it's not schmaltzy, I think it's just the realist kind of stuff.
But to a layman, possibly.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of a song. I need to like put some deep thought into that. Yeah, I don't know.
You do on that sort of topic, on the last records and the opener from Tall Pop Syndrome, you
Mm,
humorously you humorously list a load of luminaries, including Prince, Alan Vega, Aretha Franklin, and Kenny Rogers.
mm,
Were there any key influences when it came to this record? I appreciate with that song, you're not saying these are the influences on the record, but was there any one that's similar to you saying about Richard Thompson, that sort of style? Is there anything that kind of seeped in with this new record?
hmm. Yeah, I mean, this record was maybe like the culmination of all the things that I've liked throughout my life and going back to the beginning. Someone like Bill Callahan was always someone that I loved and I got to play with a couple of times and I mean he's made some of the sort of best sounding records of the last of this century, I think. So he's someone that I would always look to for a certain kind of space or way to use a voice that doesn't have a lot of range. References, other references to the record like Dion, that record Born to Be With You, which was a Phil Spector thing, which has been pretty heavily aped. I think Jarvis sampled it on one of his solo records, Jarvis Cocker. Something about the drum sound and that Phil Spector stuff. There was the record for the most part was like born out of this like harrowing sort of piano ballads that I got really into when I was in a really bad place and I was went to rehab for a bit and it was this guy Pete Dello wrote that song called Do I Still Figure in Your Life that Joe Cocker made famous. And Bill Fay. I bought a CD of Bill Fay's Time of the Last Persecution when I was in Portland in like 2006 or something. That's one of my favorite possessions and something that I've listened to pretty consistently for the last 20 years. Those kind of records and I guess there's Serge Gainsbourg or I did a playlist for this thing recently. Quozub, there's some new streaming platform asked me to do a playlist for them and I put a lot of Van Morrison and Lee Hazelwood and
Oh yeah,
all my guys that I felt bad.
Hazelwood,
Lee Hazelwood.
huge.
Um, but in the end, you can only do so much. Like the songs that I do aren't necessarily referential. I try and be pretty pure about the songwriting and find something that feels like comes very naturally, and then sort of hold on to it and nestle it for a while and try and take it to its natural conclusion. And you do that sort of 10 times, and then you got a record. And you might be influenced by all this great music, but you've only got your own source material to work with. And I just wanted everything to sound really natural, unforced, and just don't want to make music that sounds like you're trying to do anything. It just has to be exactly what it is. And to do that, you gotta work with people that are really super confident with who they are, that aren't trying to impose themselves too much. And everyone just has to work in the spirit of the song. I mean, it's a very pure way to think about it, but I feel like it's the only way to do it because there's so much music being made now, and it's like it's just a complete waste of time for the most part, and it's ruining people's ability to even like music. You kind of have to be very real about your intentions of why you would even record a song. Not to say, I mean, simultaneously. people might hate my record that like really great music, but I can't, I can only say that my intentions were pure.
Streaming platforms are obviously not helpful, but I do find it funny that that one you just mentioned has got a really unmemorable name, hard to say. I look forward to
Quote,
their future.
Quozub. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the marketing manager was thinking. Apparently, they offer really good rates on paying their artists, and the quality is high. But I mean, I think it all stinks. I'm becoming very anti online. I don't know if my relationship with music has it's definitely declined since the majority of it is online. You know, like I grew up with CDs and cassettes and records and radio and these sort of tangible things for the most part. And there's kind of the experiences I remember, still remember the most and have the most value and had the most impact. And I know if I can get my hands on a record and I can listen to it on my stereo, I'm obviously going to have a better relationship with the music. And you don't have a chance to access all the music all the time like that. And so you end up having the relationships with music that you might not necessarily be the greatest music in the world, but it's just what's come into your orbit. And that is better than having a good relationship with a bad or not a great record is better than having infinite access to all music of all time, I think, because at least you'll listen to the average record in a real way. I don't know. How do you feel about that stuff? Do you still listen to physical music or?
Yeah, I mean, again, not a visual thing, but there's a vinyl collection over there.
Yeah.
I gave my CDs to a charity radio station, but yeah, very much a physical media guy, but also, I am stuck with streaming. But I agree, because when you go out to walk the dog and you've got infinite possibilities on your phone, you never know what to put on. But if you're staring at the record collection,
I often, yeah,
you know,
something will come. Yeah, I mean, it's something you have to work at. I think that's the hardest thing, is that as life, everything becomes easy, and the emphasis is on ease of access and ease of use. Doing anything that's slightly difficult becomes a act of protest. Yeah, like you have to like a fighter have to really fight to like put on a record and not just like send my phone to the Bluetooth speaker, you know. And there's these sort of like conscious acts that you make where I'm like, I'm not going to look at my phone and I'm going to pick up a book. I'm going to read. And I feel like every time I do that, it feels I'm fighting against the overwhelming urge to do the easiest thing at every moment. And I think that that's important and it should it shouldn't be that hard. Yeah. It's too easy for everyone. And when everything is easy, nothing is worth anything. And and
your
I always
values, yeah.
just always wanted to make stuff of value. It was like when I started making records or CDs, it was like I want to make the CD. Not that everyone doesn't want to do this, but it was like I will go to extra lengths with the printing and the making the artwork, the thing that you're not going to throw away. Like this is the thing that goes in a box and you have to take to your next house. And I was very like conscious about that and always try to like make things as well as I possibly can. And not to say that everyone else doesn't try to do that. It's just that was just how I felt about it.
I must
Um,
admit, the moving house with records, I don't find pleasurable. But the thing you said, about that maybe not everyone is the same. There are some people I think who are just absolutely fine with everything being simple and being able to AI their every thinking move, which is depressing.
yeah. Yeah, I sort of envy those people. I knew some people that, like a couple of friends, like threw out all their books and got rid of all their CDs and everything, and now they're like buying books again because I like. Eventually, it was just like, I don't feel like I'm actually enjoying. reading on a Kindle or whatever.
Yeah, Kindle just seems depressing to me.
Yeah, I think it's good for travel, I guess.
True. Yeah.
I don't know. When I start talking like this, I'm like some old curmudgeonly guy that has got a problem with the internet or something. And it's like I don't have a problem with the internet. It's great for like lots of stuff, and in a lot of ways, I wouldn't be able to make the record that I made without it. In terms of like organizing everyone and getting it all together, and I use my laptop to record and make demos and it's like do everything on it. But for some reason, I'm realizing more and more that all the good things that I like about music exist outside of this, and more so, I have to fight for them. And you can't really beg other people to come with you, like being like, oh, you got to buy my record because it's like going to be better than the other experience. Well, they couldn't necessarily care too much about that, and then probably it might not. They might not even be able to tell the difference so much. But yeah, I'm for me, it's a daily battle.
Incredible segue coming up, but on the
Hmm.
subject of this sort of media, you had a song recently featured in The Surfer, the Nick Cage film.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was talking about this at the pub with my partner yesterday, and she said that at times it feels like you and Al Cam almost could be like drag versions of Nick Cage, like caricatures that he might have portrayed over his vast career. And, and it seems like a no-brainer to have, your song appear in the actual film. How did that come about, and how is it, knowing that you've got a song in that trippy film?
Yeah, did you like the movie?
I did to a point. I think
Hmm.
when you realized that it was real, or at least it seemed real, it was kind of like, oh, you set us up and then you didn't follow through. That's what I thought. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, I worked on the artwork for the soundtrack, so I had to look at it from with a different sort of set of eyes. I think there was a lot of good stuff about it. The soundtrack was done by a friend of mine, Francois Titaz, who's a composer from Melbourne, and he mixed one of my records a few years ago. He just got in touch about the movie, about the soundtrack, and he said, "I got this song, and I want to have you singing on it." And I actually did it while I was recording the vocals for Separation Rock, actually. Yeah, we were just on FaceTime in the studio, and he was talking me emotionally through what was happening. I don't know if I saw the scene. I think he just there was a lot of embargoes around it, like he couldn't show me any cuts or anything of it, so I sort of had to imagine. But he said, I think that you would appreciate it because Nick Cave's going to get angry at you singing on the stereo and turn it off. And he said, I thought a lot of other people might be a bit sensitive and not get the gag. But he said, I think that you've got the right headspace to be able to take it. And yeah, I mean, I think Nick Cage is great. And I've loved a lot of his performances, and the opportunity to be on the screen with Nick Cage is fantastic. We need to finish the song. We were talking about doing recording a full version of it, Teardrops for Christmas. But yeah, we haven't done that yet. Good reminder. I'll get in touch with Frank tomorrow about that because we've still got time before Christmas.
That's good to hear. Yeah, you've still got a few weeks, haven't you? My partner also wanted me to add the love scene from Moonstruck.
Oh
She said,
yeah.
she said, that could be an influence on your work. And she said, a wooden hand might be what's missing from your act.
Yeah, that's a great film, Moonstruck. I love that. Yeah, he's that's one of his first big roles, I think, isn't it? He
With
fucking
Cher, yeah, I think so.
he fucking nails that. Yeah, I mean, it's funny this idea of like the crew, Al or like Kieran and I being more akin to like actors or something because we don't necessarily play out the sort of rock and roll tropes. This is like a different way at coming at music, which is, I think, what was interesting about it maybe 10 years ago. And in that way, it's sort of interesting to me, like people like Will Oldham that I was really inspired by is more of an actor, came at songwriting as like a from an acting sort of background, and how it feeds into writing, it's more about persona than it is about like playing out the old rock and roll tropes, a Bob Dylan kind of like protest singer or like being like a wild rock and roll showman. Like those things are so like embarrassing now. Um, trying to find new ways to come at it. But at the core of it, it's always about writing songs and communicating ideas through music and rhyming words.
Before I finish up and let you get on with the rest of your evening, I did just want to chuck in that because it kind of adds into that Hollywood glamour. We actually met Nick Cage over 15 years ago in Vegas, and he was sat at a table at a hotel outside by the pool, and it was him, Carrot Top, and Roger Taylor, and someone else. I can't think who the other person was, but they were all mates, and they were all wearing these gold jackets.
Wow. Carrot Top.
Carrot Top and Roger Taylor from Queen.
That's insane. What a lineup.
Strange.
That sounds like Jack Ladder and the Dreamlanders right there. Um,
Peculiar, right?
yeah, a friend of mine met him at a hotel lobby in Hollywood, and he bought them a round of drinks and then just hung out and ended up going out on a bender. And like he was very hospitable and generous guy with his time. Yeah.
But he's also the real deal, I think, isn't he?
I think he would probably go out and then just not come home for like a week. He's kind of got that ability because I think that's why he's working so much now is he just spent all his money that he made and now he's sort of chained to just doing endless sort of productions and he doesn't really care what they are. He just wants to work. Interesting thing I heard about the surfer. Every day he would just eat one whole chicken and that was it.
Just,
Just one,
just the,
just
no
one roast,
sides.
no sides, just the chicken. It's like throwing a chicken to a fucking crocodile or something.
How peculiar.
Hmm.
It's like that
Yeah,
Christian Bale kind of tuna diet to become emaciated. He just ate an entire roast chicken every day to
just to
stay
stay
orange.
healthy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he does get quite decrepit in that film,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, it's all about the chicken.
it's all about the chicken. So I don't want to again, we've started with Al Cam and we've moved on to Nick Cage, but back to you to finish on. The press
Mm.
release for the new records suggested that this is the record that Jack Ladder has been waiting his whole life to make, which is a great
Mm.
opening gambit.
Yeah, yeah.
And outside of hyperbole, does it feel that way? It sounds from what we've been chatting about that it does feel that this is very much, like you say, a full circle moment, and it feels like you know,
Yeah, well,
got the
I mean, as
goods.
as someone as a kid that grew up really getting stuck into like Van Morrison's like Astral Weeks or like Dylan's 60s and records and all of the classic songwriter stuff. And then going on detours of like what's working with what's available and then being able to like go, all right, now I'm allowed to go into a studio in LA with all these great engineers and musicians and play these songs that I've been working on for 10 years. It did feel like, oh, it's all sort of been leading to this. Whether I'll be able to do it again, it was a very special kind of moment because I got some funding to do the record and things just managed to all come together in this very small space of time where people were available to do it. And even having Chad Blake mix it was a very special thing for me. I don't think it's something I'll be able to replicate. It might just be this one-off sort of record, but it feels like it was definitely a sort of a bucket list thing, if not like a career defining moment. And I'm proud of it. I'm constantly shocked because sometimes I just hear 15 seconds of it on Instagram and I forget what it sounds like, and then I'll hear the record. I'll be like, oh wow, that's great. That's my record. That sounds fantastic. I'm sure it'll change in a couple of weeks. You know, when you wear out a record and you don't hear the music anymore. It's sort of like when you look at a word for too long and you just see that just turns to mush. That's often what happens when you're working on a record for so long.
You can understand why people say it's theirs now or it's yours now.
Yeah, it's yours now. It's also I forget really quickly and I have to sort of remind myself just to like stay on track that this is a thing that's worth pursuing and I'll try and get as many, get it out there as much as possible, which is talking to you.
Fueled by roast chicken, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just eat roast chicken and just make really slow, long songs. That's also the funniest thing about doing things like this, where you like second guess yourself the whole time and you're like, oh, it's really slow. This is like I got this song. I don't know if we should record it. It goes like it's really long, goes for about 8 minutes, and then the response on the back end is like everyone's like, I love that song. Love this song Radiation. It's like basically it's the same chords for 8 minutes and 12 verses or something. And people are like, that's the one. That's the good one. I'm like, okay. You don't want the 3 minute single? Because everyone else is telling me the songs are too long. Uh, So
Yeah, yeah. But no, yeah, I'll let you get on with the rest of your evening, as I say. And thanks so much, Jack. Appreciate that.
no, thanks, Andy. I'm just gonna go to bed. I'm tired now.